Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on, everybody? The Atlanta Hawks have won 10 straight games. Yes, you heard that correctly. They are the hottest team in the NBA right now. Sorry, up upstairs working on something up there if you hear any noise on that. But the Atlanta Hawks have won 10 straight games. The Auburn Tigers won last night against South Alabama. Of course, the South Alabama baseball. I was at that game. They beat Alabama. It was overall a great day to be an Auburn Tiger, that's for sure, and to be an Atlanta Hawks fan as well, as they won, of course, 10 straight games. Looking to make it 11 tonight versus the Dallas Mavericks. Anyway, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Sports Lovers. Today is my official March Madness tournament predictions. Yes, I try to do this every single year. My official ones, meaning who I think is going to win, right? This is going to be the main bracket that I make. I'll make a couple other ones just for fun, but this is the main bracket that I make when it comes to March Madness, and it's releasing the day before the NCAA tournament starts. So if you are into sports, hit that sub button, leave a comment down below. We post on this channel every single day. Let me know who you have winning the national championship in the comments down below before we hop into the video. And without further ado, let's go ahead and hop right into my March Madness predictions. Starting us off in the East region, for those of you who don't know how this works, I'm going to be looking at my computer while talking about the game. So we got Duke versus Siena. Obviously, I'm going to go Duke. They're the best team in the country for a region. Cameron Bruiser going to be a #1 overall pick in the NBA draft if you are asking me. And Duke's going to win this matchup easily. With that being said, though, the next game, 8v9, is going to be an interesting one. It could go either way for sure, but I'm going to go with the Ohio State Buckeyes. I think they've played in a better conference than TCU altogether, which ultimately is why I'm going to pick them. More experience against better teams always helps in March Madness, so I'm going to go with Ohio State to move on to the next round. Then we have St. John's and Northern Iowa. I'm going to go with St. John's and Rick Pitino. I think that one's pretty clear. Kansas and Cal Baptist. This can go either way depending on how Darren Peterson is going to play in the first round of the NCAA tournament. However, I'm going to go with Kansas in this matchup there. Louisville and South Florida. A lot of guys are picking South Florida to upset Louisville, and I'm going to be doing the same thing in my bracket. Then we have Michigan State versus North Dakota State. Give me Michigan State in that one. UCLA and UCF. UCLA, man, they gave Michigan hell in the Big Ten tournament. I'm going to be so real. However, with that said, I think UCF's been one of the hottest teams in the country this postseason so far, and I'm going to go with the UCF Knights to get the first round upset in the 7v10 game in the East, rather. So give me UCF in that one, and UConn and Furman. I'm obviously going to go with the UConn Huskies, which brings us, to the west side of the bracket, where we got Arizona and Long Island, where I'll go Arizona. Villanova, Utah State, can kind of see go either way, but I'm going to go with Villanova there. Wisconsin and High Point, I could totally see High Point knocking off Wisconsin, but I've already predicted I think they get the job done in that matchup. So I'm going to go with Texas to pull the upset over BYU in the first four. Then after that, we got Gonzaga and Kennesaw State. I'm going to go with the Zags in that one. Miami versus Missouri. I think I'm going to go with the Hurricanes in that one. And then Purdue and Queens. Queens winning their conference. Auburn actually played Queens and beat them at home, but I'm going to go with the Purdue Boilermakers there, which brings us to the Midwest region, where we have Michigan versus Howard. Give me Michigan in that one. Georgia versus St. Louis. I'm going to go Georgia, the Dogs. Texas Tech and Akron. I'm going to go Akron to upset the Texas Tech Red Raiders in round #1. I just think with Obi Toppin being out, the Red Raiders have been kind of on the downfall as of recently. But hey, we'll see. Maybe they can get it together in March Madness. Then we've got Alabama and Hofstra. Even without Aiden Holloway, I still think they are the better team, and I'm going to go with them to get the win. Then Tennessee and Miami of Ohio or SMU. Either way, I'm going to go with the Tennessee Volunteers in that one. And Virginia Wright State, going to go with the Virginia Cavaliers. Kentucky and Santa Clara. Could totally see Santa Clara walking in there and upsetting Kentucky, but I think it is going to go the Wildcats' way, and I think Iowa State is going to beat Tennessee State as well, which brings us to the final region, the South region in round #1. Florida versus Lehigh. I'm going to go with Florida in that one. Clemson versus Iowa. Could go either way for sure. 8-9 matchup. I'm going to go with the Iowa Hawkeyes in that one. Vanderbilt McNeese. I'm going to go Vandy. Nebraska Troy. Nebraska, I believe, fell in their opening round of the Big Ten tournament. Troy has kind of had some time off to prepare. I'm going to go with Troy to get the upset win over Nebraska. North Carolina, VCU, I'm going to go with VCU just because I think North Carolina's star player is out for the year, so I'm going to go with VCU in that matchup. Illinois versus Penn, give me Illinois. St. Mary's A&M, give me A&M. Houston versus Idaho, give me Houston in that one. Which brings us back to the second round matchup games. Duke, Ohio State, give me the Duke Blue Devils. St. John's over Kansas in the second round right there. South Florida versus Michigan State, give me Michigan State. And UConn and UCF, give me the UConn Huskies in that one. Moving over back to the western side of things, this is going to go very quickly, this video wise, because I don't like to talk about it forever, because I just think you guys have other things to do than watch some basketball, that's for sure. Or watch a video of somebody talking about basketball. Arizona versus Villanova, gonna go Arizona. Could totally see the Cats, though, upsetting the Cats in that matchup there. Wisconsin versus Arkansas, gonna go with Arkansas in that one. Texas versus Gonzaga, gonna go with Gonzaga. Miami, Purdue, give me Purdue. And then we head to the Midwest region where we've got Michigan versus Georgia. Give me the Michigan Wolverines. Akron versus Alabama. This is going to be interesting, and I think Akron makes it to the Sweet 16. I think they are the team that is going to make a Cinderella run. If they can keep up with this Alabama offense and can knock off Texas Tech, there's a good chance that they make it to the Sweet 16. That's for sure. Tennessee versus Virginia. Give me Virginia in that matchup. And then Kentucky versus Iowa State. I'm going to go with Iowa State there to round us out in the, of course, the Midwest regional bracket. Then we've got the South bracket where Florida's going to beat Iowa. Vanderbilt's going to beat Troy, which will set up a Vanderbilt and a Florida game, or Sweet 16 game. Then we have VCU versus Illinois. Give me Illinois in that one. A&M versus Houston. I'm going to go with Houston in there, which brings us to our first game of the Sweet 16, ladies and gentlemen, where we have Duke versus St. John's. This is going to be an all-time game, that's for sure, but I'm going to go with Duke in that matchup. Michigan State versus UConn. I think UConn takes... Actually, I'm going to go with Michigan State now that I think about it. I think I'm going to go with the Michigan State Spartans to, of course, make it back to the Elite Eight in that matchup. Florida versus Vanderbilt. Florida gets their rematch, and they'll win this one in the Elite Eight. Illinois versus Houston. That's going to be a banger, but I got to go with the Houston Cougars in that one. Leading us to the western side of the bracket where we got Arizona and Arkansas. Give me Arizona. Gonzaga versus Purdue. This is going to be a banger, but I'm going to go with Gonzaga to get the win. I know Purdue just won the Big Ten, and they have every right to be fired up, but I just think Gonzaga, if it's going to be their year, it's this year to make a Final Four run. That's for sure. And then we have, of course, I believe the Midwest side of the bracket. Michigan versus Akron. Unfortunately, Akron's run is going to come to an end. Virginia versus Iowa State. I'm going to go with the Virginia Cavaliers to upset the Iowa State Cyclones in that Elite or Sweet 16 matchup. Then we've got Michigan versus Virginia in the Midwest. Go to the Final Four. I'm going to go with the Michigan Wolverines. Florida versus Houston in the South, I believe. Going to go with Florida on that one. And then, of course, Duke, Michigan State. Going to go with Duke in that matchup. And Arizona and Gonzaga, I'm going to go with Arizona to get the win, which sets up an all-one seeds Final Four, which I think is going to be very, very fitting for 2 years in a row, March Madness. The best teams make the Final Four, that's for sure, and all of these guys have what it takes to make the Final Four, especially if they get the right draw. However, that Arizona's-Gonzaga game in the Elite Eight can go either way. I'm just going to go with the Arizona Wildcats, though, to get the job done, where Michigan will beat them and advance to the Final Four, and Duke will beat Florida to advance to the national championship, where we will have our Duke versus Michigan rematch from Washington, D.C. a few months ago, and I'm going to go with the Duke Blue Devils to win the national championship game. But you guys, let me know your thoughts on my predictions in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn that bell on, as we do our best to post on this channel every single day. Let me know where we differ in the comments down below. Who do you think is going to make a magical run in the Sweet 16 in the comments as well? Hawks game day tonight versus the Mavs. Couldn't be more hyped to watch a Hawks game in my entire life. Hopefully we can come out with the dub and come out swinging. However, with that said, like I said, I'm going to hop off, get this edited so you guys can watch it on time. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Peace.